Welcome to Thursday. I'm Andrea, I'm one of your hosts, and we are talking today about community and how do we hear Jesus or how does God speak through community. So we are going to get started. All right. All right. I'm going to start off by telling just a quick story about kind of how my relationship with Jesus has changed or has been impacted by this idea of community. A few years ago, was kind of in this place in my life where I felt like, not that I had arrived, but that I didn't quite know where to go in my relationship with Jesus. I kind of felt like I learned a lot about him. I knew a lot about him. I felt tight with him, but I just kind of felt like I didn't know how to go deeper with him. And I felt like in that conversation with God, He spoke to me that I was missing a key element of our relationship because I didn't have relationship with others. And so out of that conversation with God, I got really intentional about a friendship. And so I picked out this girl and I was like, I'm going to make friends with her and I'm going to learn about Jesus through this friendship. And so through that, it has developed into a lot more relationships. I now have a group of people that I get to meet with, my life group. I get to meet with them and learn about Jesus with them and through them. But one way it looks, I'd say, when we hear this idea of God speaking through people, it doesn't always look like, oh, Andrea, I have this word from the Lord from you. Like, it doesn't always happen like that. And I'd say actually rarely it happens like that. But what it looks like a lot for me is people or friends being able to speak truth into my life. So I think it's really easy, at least for me, I don't know about y'all, but for me, it's really easy for me to kind of get into this like negative mindset or this spiral of like just downward spiral sometimes. I can't even give you an example right now, but having people in my life that I trust to be able to speak truth into something, speak truth into a fear, speak truth into a circumstance, speak what the Lord has to say of truth into the things has been super helpful. Another way it looks like is correction, of course. It's always, I'm sure if you're married, you know this, but it's always way easier to see the fault in somebody else than it is in your own. And so the same with them, they can see your faults probably a little bit better than you can see your faults. So to have somebody to like mirror that back to you or to show you those things, um, God can really use that as a correction and as a communication tool. Another one, of course, is encouragement. I believe God is a God of encouragement and loves us and wants to just bless us. Um, and so He uses people to do that, I think, a lot. Again, I think it's really hard for us to see the good in ourselves as well, but it's much easier for other people to see your giftings and that kind of stuff. And so being able to have people around you that point those things out is awesome as well. Um, Another thing I was just going to say too, another way, this isn't maybe like speaking, but this is just get in a relationship, getting to know God. I think we've kind of talked about this before, but I have learned so much more about God through my relationships with people, more about His character and that kind of stuff. God's a huge God of forgiveness, of mercy, and those things are really a lot easier to understand and see when you have to experience them like tangibly. When you are given forgiveness for being a jerk to your friend or being a jerk to your spouse, you learn a lot more about God's character, and He's able to use those situations to speak to you with like forgiveness and mercy and those kinds of things. So that's another way God uses community to speak to me. So those. And then this one's a little bit different. And I don't necessarily see that this one always in my life because it's not always relevant. But a lot of times in my life when I was trying to make like big life decisions or like marriage was a big one or college, I don't know, any job, careers, all of those types of things. God always uses people for me to speak to me about, whether they're like giving me ideas of what to do next, or whether they're just speaking like, nope, that's a bad idea, or yeah, that sounds like in line with what God would ask. People are an incredible sounding board, if you have the right people. I'm going to read this quick verse in Proverbs. It says, "The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice." And so I think it's so important for us, when we're trying to make big decisions and that kind of thing, is to seek advice from trusted sources, from those people that follow Jesus and you respect their relationship with Jesus. I think they have a lot of good things to say to us. God typically doesn't speak like polar opposites with one person and then the other person. Like usually they are in line with one another. God speaks, truth across the board. So those are kind of different ways that I feel like God uses community to speak to me and relationship to speak to me. So this is also just really hard before I sign off. This is not easy. Like community is usually either like a negative thing or a positive thing. Like you usually have one feeling, either positive or negative, towards this aspect. And a lot of it is because when we get in community, you get vulnerable and you open the door for hurt. And so I don't know, I've been hurt before in community and relationships, and it's kind of turned me off to it in the past. And so let me know what your thoughts are about community. If you typically have like a positive view about it, or if a negative view, maybe you have been hurt. I'm going to really encourage you, though, like God had encouraged me a couple years ago, that if we don't have community, we're missing a key component of who God is and what he wants to speak to us. So, yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I can't wait to hear from you. Have a good night, guys.